is a miracle. She came as close to death with cancer as you could come without dying. Here she is, a miracle of God. Let's rejoice in that.
Dominion city was coming, and it's even now upon us. These are the days of the glory of God. These are the days of signs and wonders. These are the days of the supernatural. This is the day of the manifestation of the power of God.
You drink and you say you can't help yourself. Then after you go to the toilet and urinate, then get you a glass and scoop up the urine out of the toilet, put it in your bottle, and then drink that as alcohol.
Those prayer request forms have ink on them, all kinds of chemicals. I laid on top of those prayer requests so much that the chemicals actually got into my bloodstream. And I had 2 small strokes in my brain. I had my eyes worked on to try to get the serious bags out from under my eyes and how all those chemicals had messed them up.
Run with me. Do you feel any pain in your leg? No. No pain at all? No. Just run just a little bit with me. Come on, run just a little bit. Oh, yes. Whoa. That Jesus never had. Father, I thank you for the healing of the cancer of the bone.
See, we need to learn to follow the Holy Ghost. Okay.
It's not a 3-minute lift the jaw bubble.
Hinn spoke to his employees about the public revelations.
All over the country. This is the power of the Holy Ghost. More of your power.
And I said, in the name of Jesus. Didn't even have time to say this. Didn't even have time to get the ziz out. It looked like an angel stood there with a baseball bat and smacked him.
Heroin-related deaths within his ministry.
Now, you say, I don't know, this is really far out tonight. Isn't that wonderful? You need to get far out.
$1,000 vow of faith, big deal. We got people on welfare that's got enough faith to make $1,000 vow and paying it.
Lift the jaw bubble. The jaw bubble. Jaw bubble.
There was no conclusive evidence of miracles in any of these cases.
Well, I had no response to that because
in many of the cases
you have to speak to those people. Don't speak to me.
You steal my offering for this ministry and you'll die.
He is a showman.
Oh, Jesus, thanks.
He is a pitchman.
By the way, for all those that will send $100 or more, I want to send you a signed copy. I understand.
My question is, Jesus never asked for money. Why do you?
Well, Jesus didn't have a TV program.
Considering the current condition of today's Christian television and televangelism, is it any wonder that Jesus never had a television ministry? Hello, my name is Rick Johnston, and thanks for tuning in. Over the next hour, we are going to take a serious look at the bizarre world of televangelism. This industry is estimated to be in excess of $6 billion a year. In this media world in which we live, the televangelist somehow seems to think that God was unable to do anything before the advent of television. Our purpose for doing this broadcast is to bring a greater public awareness to their misleading, fraudulent practices. For too long, the public, that is you and me, we have sat in silence while these men have taken billions of dollars from innocent, sick people all over this world and in the nation. Listen to Webster's definition of the word fraud: a deception deliberately practiced in order to secure unfair or unlawful gain, a piece of trickery, a false swindle, someone who assumes a false pose, an impostor, a sham. I think that you will agree with me that definition clearly defines today's televangelism. Nearly everyone I meet knows someone that has been robbed, pillaged, or plundered by a televangelist or a pastor. Perhaps you or you know someone that has had this happen to them. I receive letters every day from people all over the world about the deliberate trickery used on them by televangelists. This letter that I have is from A.S. dated February the 18th of this year. A.S. writes, "After reading your book, I am giving it to someone else and someone after him. I am going to order more copies to send back to the preachers that write me for money. I am going to give copies to the pastors in my city if they have the guts to read it. I cannot tell you or thank you enough for what the book Lie of the Tithe has done for me. I am not rich, and my parents are not either. My dad was injured and got a settlement. He sent something like $5,000 to TV preachers that promised him that God would give him something in return. Well, it never came, and they are struggling on a fixed income. He has had 2 heart attacks, and now Mom is ailing also. You will never know the impact the book Lie of the Tithe has had on our entire family. I never realized the deception that exists between the pulpit and the televangelist. Keep fighting. Expose every one of them. Your friend, A.S." We feel that it is time for the public, that is you, to stand up and say this trickery has gone on long enough. It does not matter if you go to church or if you do not go to church. The way to stop them is to expose them. Think with me for a moment. Can you imagine the Honorable Jerry Lewis holding a Labor Day telethon, promising everyone that would send a $100 donation to Jerry's kids that God would in turn send them back $1,000 or 1,000 times that amount? If that happened, I assure you the entire nation would rise up in disgust against such antics. In fact, if Jerry Lewis did that, I am sure we would see a government investigation on numerous counts of fraud for such behavior. The fraud that occurs in the high-powered media market of televangelism far exceeds the serious charges of fraud for money. Many have died, as you will see. As a society, we must do whatever it takes to bring an end to these modern-day snake oil salesmen. We are not talking about free speech or the right for anyone to practice their religion. What we are talking about is intentional fraud, intentional deception of the public. In this hour, we are going to focus mainly on just one televangelist, a faith healer named Benny Hinn. Benny Hinn is the hottest faith healer in televangelism today. I know Benny personally, and Benny knows me personally. However, as you will see, not favorably. Benny has tried many times to pay me off. In his last offer, Benny and the sheriff of Orange County put over $500,000 on the table. I cannot be bought with a price. Benny Hinn is the craftiest televangelist of them all. Benny takes in over $500 $100 million a year from the sick and the dying. I have stood outside of many of Benny Hinn's crusades and cried for hours over the sick and the seriously ill that are preyed upon by his ministry. I have watched mothers with seriously ill children leave the same way. The way to stop them is to expose them for what they really are. If this hour speaks to you, you can be a part of bringing an end to what we are about to see. I am not trying to sell you something. I take no money from the book, The Lie of the Tithe. I have dedicated all of the profits to bringing more exposure to men like Benny Hinn. Most of these imposters like Benny use state-of-the-art production studios to make things appear more than they are. People come and leave the same way. The seriously ill never receive anything except a loss of money. In every instance, the televangelist goes home with his money bag full. I say it is time for you and me to stop these charlatans that prostitute the gospel for a buck.
We're back on Larry King Live, Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, with Pastor Benny Hinn. Hello.
Yes, good evening. My question is, and I consider myself to be a Christian. I consider myself to be very spiritual, but I also believe that there are false prophets out in the world today, and we've seen the televangelists who have fallen by the wayside, Jimmy Swaggarts and the Mr. Bakers, and I was just wondering what really separates Mr. Hinn from the other TV evangelists out there.
How do they know?
Well, time will tell.
Well, yeah, but time will tell. You could have $80 billion and you're living in South America somewhere, and time told.
It's quite simple. See, Jesus said, by the fruits you will know them. And just watch the person's fruits. If they display a clean life, a Christian character, if they show true Christianity, then they're really for real.
They're being illegally harassed. Channel 9's Jane Wottrell joins us now with more in a special whistleblower report. Jane?
Well, for several months, members of a small Volusia County church have been picketing powerful televangelist Benny Hinn. They've showed up at his church in Orange County and his upscale home in Seminole. Apparently, some paid security workers at Hinn's church don't like this display of freedom of speech. Workers who just happen to be Orange County Sheriff's deputies. These are the anti-Hinn protesters. Part of their routine is to stand outside of Aliqua, a posh gated community in Seminole County, home to televangelist Benny Hinn. The protesters videotape everything. They say it's for their own protection, like the time they were arrested by off-duty Orange County deputies hired by Hinn. 10 protesters were charged with trespassing and resisting arrest outside the televangelist's church.
You're being trespassed from this property. Do you have any ID on you?
We believe that Benny Hinn markets the Holy Spirit for his own benefit. He sells the Spirit for $1. And we just think that it's time that we stood up, addressed the issues, and he does not like the message that we have.
It's a message that's gotten Ricky Johnston arrested for disrupting a religious service. A message that his followers say has brought about a lot of harassment by this man, Christopher Hinn, brother to Benny and part-time Orange County Reserve deputy. In other words, an unpaid volunteer who can only act under a superior's direction. But that's not how he presents himself to protesters who until recently had no clue they were being harassed by Benny Hinn's brother. Listen to this.
Take the camera off, please.
Are you a full-time Volusia sheriff or?
No, I'm an undercover cop. I want you to take the camera off.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Are you a
It doesn't matter who I am. I'm telling you, sir. I'm a law enforcement officer. Taking the camera off.
Are you an employee of Benny Hinn?
No, sir. Just telling you.
That's all we're asking. We asked a civil rights attorney about that exchange.
Well, it reeks of an intimidation setting. It reeks of a civil rights violation situation. And all of those are use of authority for improper purposes.
But Reserve Deputy Hinn doesn't interpret the law that way. On vacation in Canada, he claims by telephone,
I was not acting as a law enforcement officer, nor I was on duty. I was in my own personal time. I asked them kindly not to videotape us while we were having a discussion, since I was with another deputy.
You said you were an undercover cop.
Undercover, that's correct.
Who authorized you to do this, or were you simply acting alone?
I was acting alone.
But Hinn wasn't alone the following weekend when protesters say he abused the badge again. Protester video shows Hinn used an unmarked sheriff's car to pull over Chris Froman. The crime? Videotaping at Brother Benny's church.
He tells me to get the camera. He says, you know, you can go to jail for a 5-year felony for videotaping an officer. And I said, no, sir. And he said, do you have the capability to erase your tape? And I said, yeah. He says, erase your tape.
Also on the scene, Hinn follower Robin Johnson, a full-time Orange County deputy. Hinn says Johnson watched the protesters erase their tape.
Who authorized you to pull these people over, flash your lights using an undercover car?
Okay, Jane, let me answer that. First of all, I did not force them off the road and pull me. They voluntarily pulled to the side when they see me approaching.
Did these people break a law?
No, the probable cause I had that I already spoke to the same gentleman a week before not to videotape us as law enforcement officers.
You're talking about
Our civil rights lawyer says Hinn is sadly misinformed.
You can't be pulled over in the United States because you film somebody's brother. You can if you break the law, but filming people in public places is legal in America.
Hinn claims no conflict of interest, but this whistleblower investigation has left protesters uneasy and sheriff's office officials furious.
Under Sheriff Staley has now launched an internal investigation, and he has more than ethics to be worried about. Some of Chris Hinn's actions took place in Seminole County, where he has no jurisdiction and no authorization from Seminole Sheriff. So far, our investigation shows that while Sheriff Berry didn't know about these questionable activities, at least 2 high-ranking members of his administration did. And Bob and Marla will be telling you who they are tonight at 11 o'clock.
Tonight, the Ministry of Benny Hinn responds to an iFiles investigation which revealed 2 heroin-related deaths within his ministry.
After returning from California this week, Hinn spoke to his employees about the public revelations. He also sent someone to talk to our Attorney Pipitone.
Benny Hinn had agreed to talk to us in person about his church, but canceled after seeing our report last week. Instead, he sent a spokesman who says Hinn is upset about that report, a report on the role of heroin in the deaths of 2 employees. Those employees was David Delgado, one of Benny Hinn's personal assistants, the man helping Hinn into his jacket before a crusade appearance last year. This is video from last December on what would be his last trip with Pastor Hinn. At the time, an Orange County homicide investigator was looking to question Delgado about the source of heroin that just weeks earlier had killed another employee of World Outreach Church, a man Hinn had trusted to babysit his children years ago. But the questioning never happened, because by the end of 1997, Delgado too was dead, a result of heroin abuse. In fact, Hinn's sensitivity to even being around tobacco smoke became apparent when he canceled an interview with us after seeing a portion of this amateur video of his trip to Jordan in our report last week.
So, no, there's no telling what they're going to sing next. Hello? So, no, there's no telling what they're going to sing next. Hello?
It's quite simple. See, Jesus said, by the fruits you will know them. And just watch the person's fruits. If they display a clean life, a Christian character, if they show true Christianity, then they're really for real.
But the questioning never happened, because by the end of 1997, Delgado too was dead, a result of heroin.
Our whistleblower has uncovered some disturbing problems for Sheriff Kevin Barry. While the sheriff apparently didn't know about these civil rights charges, two members of his inner circle apparently did. They are now under investigation. This special report centers around the right to protest versus the perceived power of televangelist Benny Hinn within the Orange County Sheriff's Office.
Sir, I'm a deputy sheriff. You are working for Benny Hinn. I'm a deputy sheriff in Orange County right now. Are you?
A heated exchange between a deputy and religious protester Rick Johnston outside Benny Hinn's church. Johnston and his group of followers say it's their calling to expose the televangelist.
Oh, thank you, Jesus, thank you.
But their freedom of speech has come with a price. They've been arrested for trespassing and resisting without violence. They say they've also been intimidated and harassed.
I'm stunned at what I have seen in Orange County by the Sheriff Department and their biasness at Benny Hinn's ministry and what happened to us in this nation called America. I'm totally stunned at what happened to us.
Stunned because of two incidents caught on videotape involving Orange County deputies and Benny Hinn's brother. Here, Chris Hinn, a volunteer reserve deputy, claims to be a law enforcement officer.
Not only are these deputies' actions questionable to say the least, but the stop occurred here in Seminole County, out of their jurisdiction.
The thought of them acting...
Civil rights lawyer Keith Mitnick.
Law enforcement can cross county lines when they're in hot pursuit of a felon or something along that line. But in a circumstance like this, it'd be hard to justify crossing county lines and using the badge as a position of authority.
Eyewitness News took these allegations to Under Sheriff Rick Staley, who then ordered an internal investigation. This inter-office memo says deputies Chris Hinn, Robin Johnson, and commanders Roger Clark and Rusty Smallwood, and possibly others, will be the subject of the inquiry. Clark and Smallwood are members of Sheriff Barry's inner circle. Sources say Smallwood, Clark, and Johnson are not only followers of Hinn, but knew about the harassment and intimidation of protesters and didn't brief Sheriff Barry about the possible civil rights violations. But Clark, Smallwood, and the two Hinns did brief the Seminole County Sheriff about the protesters, asking him to take action. Eyewitness News has learned Benny Hinn employs anywhere from 3 to 20 off-duty Orange County deputies at one time. Protester video shows this long line of the law outside an Orlando church service earlier this year. The undersheriff promises a full review of all off-duty policies. While via telephone from Canada, Chris Hinn denies any conflict of interest or violation of the public's trust.
And let me tell you something. I was the first person to come forward and say, hey, I screwed up or I boo-booed. And if I did boo-boo, I'll be the first one to come up to everybody, even to these people, and say, hey, I'm sorry. I messed up, but I would at no time I would ever want to embarrass the sheriff's office.
As for the protesters, they say they'll continue their picketing. Today, the sheriff suspended a reserve deputy, a deputy who just happens to be Hinn's brother. 42-year-old Christopher Hinn is off the Orange County force. The reserve deputy is under internal investigation and will not carry a gun or a badge until the probe is complete. There are 4 deputies under scrutiny for possible improprieties: Chris Hinn, Robin Johnson, Roger Clark, and Rusty Smallwood. Both Clark and Smallwood are commanders, members of Sheriff Barry's inner circle. Other than Hinn, the rest will remain in their present positions.
It's quite simple. See, Jesus said, by the fruits you will know them. And just watch the person's fruit. If they display a clean life, a Christian character, if they show true Christianity, then they're really for real.
We spoke to the angels of God, and we charged them to go and cause the money to come to us.
What you need is money.
You steal my offering for this ministry, and you'll die.
What you give never goes to Benny Hinn. Never. I have never touched a cent.
May I ask what your annual salary is?
Well, John, you knew that would be private.
But when he travels, it's a different story. Here at New York's Kennedy Airport, our home video camera recorded Hinn and members of his entourage preparing to board the supersonic Concorde for a flight to Europe. The round-trip fare, nearly $9,000 each. That's almost double the cost of first-class tickets to save 4 hours flying time. Hinn and his personal bodyguards stay in some of the most exclusive and expensive hotels in the world, in presidential suites costing as much as $2,200 a night.
I don't want to stay in a hotel during a crusade that does not supply the services I'm looking for.
You keep it running on him.
In 1996, one of Hinn's former bodyguards, seen here breaking up a small demonstration, threatened to go public with allegations of extravagant spending by Benny Hinn. The bodyguard was paid over $100,000 to keep quiet.
You give never goes to Benny Hinn. Never. I have never touched a cent.
And told Impact his yearly income, including royalties, was much more, between $500,000 and $1 million a year. He would not be more specific. Benny Hinn's jet-set lifestyle and his efforts to keep it secret seems to contradict the kind of financial sacrifice he asked of his followers.
By the way, for all those that will send $100 or more, I want to send you a signed copy. So send that special love gift today.
For example, Labor Day 1996 was designated by Hinn as a day of prayer for God to help people pay their bills.
If you have big debt, you sow big seed. Just the way it is.
Yes.
If I had to have a big financial miracle, I would not give $1.
Right.
I would give a big sacrificial seed, believing God for the harvest.
The cash flows into Hinn's Orlando-based headquarters. Inside the highly secured money room,
hello, guys.
40 people work 4 different shifts sorting mail and money.
How many pieces of mail do you process a week?
In a week, we're averaging between 15 and 18,000.
Your credit card number, please.
Benny Hinn also operates a sizable tax-free mail order business.
This package can be yours for $50 only through this special television offer.
With operators standing by 24 hours a day.
Benny Hinn Ministries, how may I help you?
Taking orders for everything from Benny Hinn coffee mugs, audio tapes, videotapes, and of course, Benny Hinn books. You can even buy autographed Bibles for $100 each.
May I ask what your annual salary is?
Well, John, you knew that would be private. What you give never goes to Benny Hinn. Never. I have never touched a cent.
Two former members of Sheriff Kevin Barry's inner circle are now fired. A reserve deputy is also out, and 3 others are suspended. It all goes back to deputies who worked off-duty jobs for televangelist Benny Hinn.
In a 200-page internal document, it finds Hinn violated policy by abuse of his position as a reserve deputy and lied to investigators. Hinn has now been fired. The report concludes former Commander Roger Clark of falsifying off-duty records while working at Benny Hinn's church, lying to investigators, and abusing his position as a commander. Clark has been fired. Former Commander Rusty Smallwood tours with Benny Hinn as a singer. Today, he was fired for the same charges as Clark and also for destroying records he says he kept on the protesters. Protester Ricky Johnston reacts to the firings.
And Benny Hinn and the World Outreach Center, they did not like us exercising that right in front of their church, and they decided with the conspiracy of the money that they purchased, the influence in the Sheriff's Department, just to stop us. and fortunately, they got caught.
The sheriff also suspended Deputy Robin Johnson and then Sergeant Bill Hollingshead for conduct unbecoming an officer. Both are followers of Hinn. One other deputy has received a minor suspension.
The internal investigation reveals that before our whistleblower report aired in June, Benny Hinn was getting a bargain with these now fired deputies, and we'll have a full report on that tonight.
Ferguson, you are healed by the power of God. The disease, dear lady, has just died, and you will live.
The Lord has healed you. Correct you for the last time. I do not say to the individual, you're healed. They're telling me they've been healed. So we're not the ones claiming they've been healed. They're the ones claiming they've been healed.
Eileen Ferguson, you are healed by the power of God. The disease, dear lady, has just died, and you will live.
The Lord has healed you.
The Lord is telling me right now, He is repairing Holyfield's heart completely.
This is marvelous. Yet his best-known healing, that of heavyweight boxing champion Evander Holyfield, has been disputed. Holyfield's doctors claim his heart ailment was misdiagnosed in the first place.
This is marvelous.
Benny Hinn makes wild claims, impossible to verify and hard to believe.
I was in Ghana just recently. We had 500,000 people show up, and a man was raised from the dead on the platform. That's a fact, people. I was in Ghana recently, preaching one night. They brought a man, and this man was put on the platform, and he was dead. The man was dead. And it was a very scary thing. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw his body being picked up, from hand to hand, to put him on the stage. Mm-hmm. Behind my back, the man was getting up and moving.
Oh, my, oh, my. Do you literally believe that someone has been resurrected on the program?
I have not seen it. In that one case, we did hear about it. I was in Ghana just recently. We had 500,000 people show up, and a man was raised from the dead on the platform. That's a fact, people. And this man was put on the platform, and he was dead. The man was dead. I have not seen it. In that one case, we did hear about it.
Almost every episode of the show is built around excerpts from his healing crusades, recorded in state-of-the-art production trucks.
Good one. Good force.
Crusades are, in effect, glorified television productions, mostly paid for with money from offerings.
Are you expecting your miracle today?
35-year-old Laura Twilley, her body ravaged by cancer and chemotherapy, has been told by doctors she only has a few weeks to live. In desperation, she's turned to Benny Hinn. Like many others in the pre-show crowd, she experiences what she calls a miracle.
I have cancer all over my body, and I haven't been able to walk at all, or pretty much stand, and I'm doing pretty good now.
Later, we'll find out how long-lasting this miracle is. Many miracle seekers make long, difficult journeys to see Benny Hinn, like Linda Tyson and her 17-year-old paralyzed son, Shandez. They drive 6 hours from their home in Elba, Alabama.
I'm hoping for a miracle, a big blessing.
Arriving late in Atlanta, mother and son cannot get into the crusade. They find shelter from the rain in a concession area beneath the arena. They will return the following night. Inside, cancer victim Laura Twilley is being interviewed, part of a screening process that determines who will be allowed on stage with Benny Hinn.
Give the Lord a mighty hand of praise.
Linda Tyson and her son Shandez, who were turned away the first night of the crusade, also failed to get in the second night. Shandez's condition has not changed. Laura Twilley, who earlier walked for the first time in weeks, she failed the screening process to get on stage.
Laura was hurt. She was crushed by that. She wanted more than anything for Benny to just come over there and put his hand on her.
4 weeks after the crusade, Mrs. Twilley died, leaving behind her husband and 3 little girls.
If your engine is not revving up, you know what you need? You need a Holy Ghost enema right up your rear end.
These have been fired tonight for trying to bend the law to favor their pastor, televangelist Benny Hinn. Those firings come 6 months after a Channel 9 whistleblower report revealed abuses of power at the sheriff's office. Channel 9's Jane Wattrell has more.
Sir, I'm a deputy sheriff. You are working for Benny Hinn. I'm a deputy.
These anti-Hinn protesters were illegally arrested and harassed by Orange County deputies. That's the finding of a newly released internal report.
Never, 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 never! In Jesus' mighty name.
The report reveals a cozy relationship between the powerful televangelist and 2 of Sheriff Kevin Barry's former top standers, Roger Clark and Rusty Smallwood. Both were fired on Wednesday for traveling with Hinn on religious crusades while still on the sheriff's office's payroll. In other words, they collected 2 paychecks. Both admitted they not only protected Hinn, but ran any errands he requested on his crusades. And there were profits in other ways. Smallwood says he made $4,000 to $5,000 a night selling tapes of his singing at Hinn's rallies. Also fired for abuse of power is Christopher Hinn. The former reserve deputy illegally stopped protesters picketing his brother's church and tried to pass himself off as a law enforcement officer. But the abuse didn't stop in Orange County. The report reveals the deputies and Benny Hinn threatened Seminole County Sheriff, telling Don Eslinger to either arrest the protesters or face harassment from Hinn's congregation. He refused. In Orlando, Jane Wattrell, Channel 9 Eyewitness News. In addition to the sheriff's office investigation, Clark and the other deputies are now facing scrutiny by a federal agency. The FBI confirms their investigation is now underway. In Orlando, Jane Wattrell, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
It's quite simple. See, Jesus said, by the fruits you will know them. And just watch the person's fruits. If they display a clean life, a Christian character, if they show true Christianity, then they're really for real. And a man was raised from the dead on the platform. That's a fact, people. What you give never goes to Benny Hinn. Never. I have never touched a cent. I do not say to the individual,
you know what
you're healed. They are telling me they've been healed. They are the ones claiming they've been healed. This is marvelous.
The Lord is telling me right now, He is repairing Holyfield's house completely.
By the way, for all those that will send $100 or more, I want to send you a signed copy. I don't want to stay in a hotel during a crusade that does not supply the services I'm looking for.
Mrs. Twilley died.
Never, 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 never!
You need a Holy
Jesus, mighty name.
Right up your rear end.
Ferguson, you are healed by the power of God. The disease, dear lady, has just...
And a man was raised from the dead on the platform. That's a fact, people.
you need? You need a Holy Ghost enema right up your rear end.